6-4% of a number. We've skipped 6-3. Some of your teachers may want to try the estimating thing in 6-3, but I just don't think the book does a very good job. So we're going to 6-4% of a number, and this can be a little difficult because when we take 25% of 64, and on your workbook there's like 25 problems, it's all the same thing. 25% of 64, and we want to ask ourselves, do we convert the percent here? Do we convert that to a fraction or a decimal? Sometimes it's easier to work with a fraction, and sometimes it's easier to work with a decimal. It really just depends. And so this is kind of a difficult page, especially for students who aren't too sure of their math abilities. You really, what I like to do is I like to write down both the percent and the times and see which one I want to use. Okay? All right, so let's just take this first problem. 25% of 64. So I want to find what number is 25% of 64. Now, we have already learned that 25%, if we want to find the fraction, is 25 over 100. If we reduce that by 25 on top and bottom, it's 1/4. There's the 1/4. Now, kids, let's all remember this for the rest of our lives. Of means times or multiplied by. Okay? All right. So here's our multiplication sign. We bring the 64 right down here. So here's the fraction. Now the decimal, we know, is 0.25. So here's the decimal. All right? Now, which to you looks easier to do? I know for me, this looks a lot easier. Some of you may not like to divide, but do I really want to do this where I have two numbers on the bottom and two on top? A lot of us, when we try to do this long multiplication stuff, we get that wrong. Whereas this, we simply can just go 64 over 4. We can make that 64 over 1, and this is 64, 4. We don't even need to cross cancel now, because what we'll do is, this is like 4 into 64. Okay? 4 into 6 is 1, and we get 40. And then we have 24. 4 into 24 is 6, 16. Now, to me, this is much easier than trying to do this. Now, a lot of adults and teachers, they'll say, well, just times it by 0.25. But they're not the ones who often get these kinds of problems wrong with doing this and then this and putting in the 0. So I'd say this is easier. So 25% of 64 is 16. Does this make sense? 1/4 of 64? Yeah, 16. Okay? Now, let's go on to the next one here. 10% of 130. Well, 10% as a fraction is 1/10 times 130. 10% as a decimal is 0.10, and then let's drop the 0. So 130 times 0.1. Now these are both pretty easy, okay? So if I multiply that across, I get 130 over 10, I go like that, and I get 13. Ta-da, easy, okay? If I do this, 130 times 1 is 130, and we go back one space, and I get 13. Both of those are very easy, okay? Now, this one's a little bit tricky. If I want to take and convert this into a fraction, 5/100, now let's remember, 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 100 20 times. first of all, if you're going to use a fraction, you have to be able to do this correctly. Okay? Also, if you're going to do the decimal, you cannot multiply 170 by 0.5. 5% is not 0.5. Watch. 5% is 500. 0.05. Okay? Now, 1/20th times 170, or 170 times this. I'm really not sure which is easier. Now, for me this, but some of you might pick this. Now, so this is 170 over 20. Okay, now watch this. Cancel that. So we have 17 over 2. And so we go 2 into 17 is 8, 16, 1, decimal, 0, 8.5, 8.5. So this should be 8.52. So let's see how it works. Now, we don't worry about multiplying by 0, only 5. So we go 5 times 0, 0. 5 times 7, 35, carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. Now let's be careful. There are 2 spots behind the decimal. 2 spots behind the decimal. 8.50 is 8.5. Now which one of those was easiest for you to do? Probably for me it was this. Because I know if I had $17, half of that is 8.5, and divided by 2 is half. But some of you may do this better. Okay, we'll do some more problems. Okay. Our next problem is 90% of 160. Now remember, fraction versus decimal. Which one do we use? Let's take the fraction. 90%. That's 9/10. 9/10 of is times 9/10 times 160. Now, I basically could go just like this. I could cross cancel. Okay? Then we just have 9 times 16. 54 and 90 is 144. Okay? Now that to me was pretty easy. Now, 90%, what is that as a decimal? 90% is 90 hundredths. 90 hundredths is 0.90. Hey, let's get rid of that and we'll make it dimes. 9 out of 10 dimes is 0.9. 9 out of 10 dimes is 90%, 0.9. So we go 0.9 times 160. Okay? 9 times 0. 9 times 6, 54, 5, 14. Here's the key point right there. You don't want to do all this math right, but then blow it here. So it's 144. Now, which of those was easiest for you? Some people will say this. Some people will say this. Okay? Okay, so we go to 125% of 36. Now, let me show you what I like to do here. This is tricky because we have 125%. Now, with a fraction, watch what I like to do. The fraction, I like to break it up into 2. Okay? Now, what is 100% of 36? It's always going to be this same number. Okay? A whole of 36 is 36. All right? Now we have 25% of 36. Remember how this is easy to convert to a fraction, 1/4. 25 goes into here and here, 1 and 4. Now, times 36. 36 over 4 is 9. So, 25% of 36 is 9. 1/4 of 36 is 9. There's 100% here. Now watch. We add those two. What's 36 plus 9? 45. Okay? 45. Now, for decimals, some person might say this. Okay, we still have 100% of 36, which is 36. So the decimal 25%, 25% is equal to 0.25. We're going to multiply that by 36. I don't think this is a smart way to go. Fractions are much easier, but if someone wants to do this, so we go 3318. Now this is times 20, so we have a 0 here. Then that's 12, 7, 0, 0, 8. Now 1, 2, there. Now 25% is, did I put 8 or this is 9? Sorry, this is 9. 8 and 2 and carry the 1. So this is 9.00, which is 9. Now 25% is 9, 100% is 36. 36 plus 9 is 45. Now there's a third way to do it also. You can go another way to do a decimal. 36 times. Now, 125%. 25% is 0.25. Anytime you have a number in the hundreds, it's a whole number, 1.25. Now me, I don't want to do that, but you know, if that's what you really wanted to do, a lot of 6th graders really mess that up, 2 numbers times 3, but that basically would come out to something like this, 4500, and then because of these two, you put it right there and you come up with 45. I would rather not do this. Too many 6th graders goof up that long division, okay? Yeah, these are hard. Now, 385% of 400. Goodness gracious. Okay? Now, what is 100% of 400? Well, that's 400. And then we're going to have 300%, so it's 3 400s. Now, what's 400, 400, 400? 1,200, 1,200. So 300% of 400 is basically just 3 times 400 is 1,200. Now we have to figure out 85% of 400. Okay? And if I was going to do this, let's say we do it by fractions. Now what's the biggest number that goes into here or here? It's going to be 5. So we get 17 over 20 times 400. Now watch this. Now how many times can 2 go into 40? 20. And so what we have left is 17 times 20, which is 340, added to 1,200, and we get 1,540. Now that's one way to do it. Or we could go decimal 85 times 400, and here we'll get 1, 5, oops, sorry, bad day. Here we'll get 3, 4, 0, 0, 0. Take that back, 340. Add it with a 1,200, we get that. And then for some of you who are complete crazies, you take 3.85 times 400. Now, you know, actually this might not be bad because you have zeros here. Now watch this. you could do 4 times 5 is 20, carry the 2. 4 times 8 is 32 plus 2 is 34. And then this is 15, okay? Now we have 2 zeros here, so we have to add that. And then we have to subtract those 2 zeros because we have the decimals there. You know, this actually seemed the easiest for my brain. I'd go, this was second place with the fraction, and this was probably third. So once again, you can do it either of those ways. Okay, 150%. What is 100% of 225? 225. So now we need 50% of 225. Well, 50% is simply 0.5. Here the decimal is much easier. 0.5 times 225. Okay, so we get 25, carry the 2, we get 12, carry the 1, we get 11, we go back 1. And so half of 225, 50% of 225, which is half, is 112.5. So we take the 112.5, which is the 50%, add it to the 100%, 225. You got to make sure you have straight columns. 0.5733. 337.5. Okay? All right. Now, 3 more examples. These are all tough problems, okay? Although this looks tough, but if we try it this way, what if we converted this to a fraction? That's the reduced fraction here. Watch this. Seven times 6 is 42. You cannot get easier than that. Okay? If you would want to turn this into a decimal, now remember, 7% is not 0.7. No, it's 0.07 times 600. And so we go 0, 0, 42, 2 places there. So the answer is 42. Now I really like that. I thought that was very easy and quick. Okay? All right. Let's go right over here. Now we don't even have 1% here. This isn't 7%. This is 7/10 of 1%. So this is under 1%. This is like really small. I don't think I can get a fraction out of this. Period. Okay? So I'm going to go all decimal here. Now we have to remember this. This is the whole number of the percents. 0. Now remember what percents are. Hundreds. We have no hundreds. Okay? And then we add this on there. That's pretty tough. Now we're going to multiply by 90 times. Okay? Now, watch this. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 9 is 63. Now when we do this, you don't multiply by this and go out zeros. You do not do that. You stop at 630. And then you go back, watch this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So under 1% of 90 is 0.63. That means that is under 1. The answer to this is 63 hundredths, which is under 1, which makes sense. Yeah, right. Okay, now 162. Now our last problem, another difficult one, is 162% of 350. Well, if we take 100% of 350, That's 350. And then if we take 62% of 350, I don't think we want to turn 62% into a fraction. So we'll go 0.62 times 350. Now most of the time, I don't like to ask sixth graders to do this because we have such a high percentage of kids who don't get this problem right. But let's do it. 2 times 0 is 0. That is 10. Carry the 1. 6 plus 1 is 7. I hope I'm doing this okay so far. Now, this is 350 times 60, so we start with a 0 here, because we already did the 2. Now, 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry the 3. And we have 18, and 3 is 21. Okay? So, overall, 0, 0, 7, 217, 2 of those, bingo. Okay? So 62% of 350 is 217. 217 and 350 for 162% is 765. So that would be the final answer. All right?